the shores of San Diego County, home to Kumeyaay ancestral sites, idyllic beaches, multi-million-dollar real estate, and military zones and bases. This coastline is also the spot in which the United States Armed Forces and its scientists collide with mid-century surfing, entangling its technological innovations with Indigenous practice. 40 miles inland, pushed into the rocks, lies the Viejas Indian Reservation.
Dude, you're lucky the sun came out.
Lola! It's okay, say hi! Lola! Come here! Yeah, so this is my area right here on my parents' property. I want to go to law school to study federal Indian policy. Having been born and raised on the Viejas Indian Reservation, I've gotten to see the growth of my respective tribal nation, and with it, I've taken this sense of responsibility to be an advocate for my people. And so a part of that is going through this super tedious process of applying to law school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 schools. Yep, really shooting my shot. The rest will be out of my control. Right over here, this is a surfboard that I shaped when I was 16 for my 16th birthday. It's a 5'2" by 20.5 by 2.5, and that's my little signature that I tried to do. And then after I did it, I asked him if I could erase it, and he laughed at me. This is a 5'5" Tomo Elfish. This is a 5'7" Sharp Eye. Which one is this? The Disco. And this one is an All-American. I couldn't even tell you what kind it is. I had started going into the sweat lodge at a very young age. I used to fall asleep in the sweat lodge, actually. And I'd be behind my dad and lifting up the blanket so I could get air every once in a while. But it always felt like an area, a place where I could go into, and the distractions of the outside world ceased to exist. They weren't there. And when I started surfing again, I started realizing that feeling of clarity, the same emotions, the same rush that I'm getting is that of clarity. And when I step into the ocean, it almost felt like it was synonymous with stepping into the lodge or stepping into ceremony, in that I was going to not escape, but to get more connected with the world around me. An experience I had when I was around 17 years old. The revered Walter Munk had invited my mother to visit his house in his later years. They were doing a memorial for him, and they wanted my mom's input on the cultural awareness and perspective that their memorial had to offer. And so we went there and we met with him and went to his place, and they welcomed us in. And at the time, I didn't really understand the impact that Walter Munk had on surfing. But I knew the story. He was able to predict surf forecasting, which helped the troops storm Normandy. And that's about as much as I knew about him. My mom posed the question to him before we left: what advice would you give to a young Kumeyaay man? And his response was, "It's not your land." And I'm not sure what he meant by that. I'm not sure what he intended what advice that intended to bring to me and what I could do with that. But it was an interesting response in that he had been intertwined into the aspect of what I loved so greatly to where his presence may have affected the way that I enjoy the sport that I love. That's Walter Munk, my mother, and I. And so, forever grateful for what he did for the surfing community. But nevertheless, he said what he said, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it leaves me without words.
Waves. Once an inexplicable and erratic force, discharging rule over vast swaths of ocean and coastline. Strength and timing seemingly indiscriminate. For millennia among Europeans, the ocean and the temperament of its waves are considered acts of God not meant to be understood, but to be feared. World War II. Amphibious assaults are surging along the coastlines of places like Japan, North Africa, Italy, France, and the Pacific Islands. Many are unsuccessful. With no inherent understanding of waves and surf, and no prediction methods to aid in timing, large swells capsize the ships, and their men drown. An urgency to understand waves becomes paramount for the American military. Frogmen are utilized to survey the ocean floors of potential attack points in clandestine operations. These men, trained by the legendary waterman and surfer John Kelly amidst the reefs of the Kingdom of Hawaii, initially don cumbersome dry suits. These suits, fashioned from rubber, prove to be both unwieldy and inadequate, leaving the men cold and encumbered. Physicist and waterman Hugh Bradner, having worked closely with J. Robert Oppenheimer on the Manhattan Project and the first atomic bomb at Los Alamos, New Mexico, is tasked with creating a new diving suit, one that could remain warmer for longer than a dry suit, and could also absorb shock waves from underwater explosions. With rubber supplies cut off due to the war, Bradner turns to alchemy to create the first wetsuit. Today, neoprene, a synthetic rubber, is most often used to shield surfers' bodies from the relentless embrace of the ocean. June 6, 1944. D-Day. Scientist Walter Munk has been perfecting his wave prediction formulas based on a greater understanding of the ocean floor and its relationship to the weather and tides. In the swirling chaos of war, his forecasts provide a glimmer of certainty amidst the fog. The Allied forces are able to accurately predict a favorable day for their invasion of Normandy, making it arguably one of the most significant surf forecasts in history.
We're going right now to Del Mar area, which is an area where the Kumeyaay people were inhabiting tens of thousands of years ago. Before the dams, we had lakes. I mean, the freeway we're on right now is historically called the Kumeyaay Highway. Now I'm using this freeway as my sort of, in many ways, like my Sundance, so to say. You know, this is my way of connecting, integrating, and they always talk about there's two worlds. You know, as a native person, you have to coexist in two worlds. And I never really completely understood that, and I think I'm you know, gonna continuously integrate that understanding into who I am. But it's very true. There are two worlds, and one world is this world where I'm stuck in, you know, rush hour traffic, and I am fixating and worrying about these illusions that are within this world, you know, and that can be very confusing, I think, for any person. A lot of this is illusionary in that, you know, what's created by man, you know, it can only be real up to a certain point. And so when I go back to these areas, you know, it's like when I'm stepping in the water, when I'm feeling these rocks, when I'm feeling these things, it's like these waterways were the same water that purified my people, that still purify me. So where I live now on the Viejas Indian Reservation versus where my people would come would live, and where my people had lived for millennials since the time of our creation stories.
World War II is over. Having been hastened by the atomic bomb attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the US military is intoxicated by its new weapon. Following the Manhattan Project's lead in displacing and sickening the local Hispano families who lived in Los Alamos, the population of Bikini Atoll and Eniwetok Atoll are evacuated and relocated to neighboring islands to make way for nuclear testing. A Faustian bargain is struck in the name of supposed progress, as these new environments are not suitable for their populations nor cultures. Under the helm of scientists like Willard Bascom and John Isaacs, these tests are conducted partly to understand the resulting waves produced by nuclear bombs. Subsurface pressure sensors and buoys are invented to record the resulting wave heights that pass over them. After nearly a decade of testing in the waters of the South Pacific, it becomes clear that the effects of waves produced by the bombs extend only to the confines of the blast zone, their potency waning against the indomitable fury of nature's tempests. 1968. The original inhabitants of Bikini Atoll return to find their home ravaged and ruined. What have you done to our island? Their question falling upon deaf ears. Most do not choose to stay. Those who do are met with a cruel fate, their bodies consumed by the silent scourge of radiation. (1980). The original inhabitants of Leo-Retz Atoll return safely, but only to the few fragments of the island unaffected by the testing decades earlier. Nuclear waste remains on the beach, slowly leaking. Today, civilians enjoy instant access to the buoy technology born from this crucible of destruction, and use it to predict swells and their waves' arrival at local surf spots around the globe.
On my mom's side, we had a lot of men who fought for this country. Why was it that they came back, and still to this day they take so much honor, and they hold that flag and they revere it with that respect? How is that? Also in consideration to the displacement that has been caused by forces like the military and like the government. How is it that they still find this reverence and respect for this flag? This land was more than just U.S. soil. It was their land. And so when they went out and they fought, they were fighting to protect this land, what is still left of this land. And that is, it's distinguishable from fighting to protect this country, They were fighting to protect this land. And so when we look at this contrast between Indigenous people and the war, it's very polarizing. But at the same time, it's profound in that many of the situations that we were constructed to conform to, we found our own significance, our own way to make relations, our own way to prosper and thrive.
1942. The colossal Camp Pendleton Marine Base straddles 17 miles of coastline between San Clemente and Oceanside, California, occupying more than 125,000 acres. Tucked within it are world-renowned surf spots like Old Man's at San Onofre State Beach, sometimes known as California's Waikiki, and Lower Trestles, which is part of the Ahashiman tribe's sprawling sacred site, Panhe. Much of this land is used for military drills and tests. The clash of steel, the roar of waves, and an ancestral breeze converge in a symphony of contradictions. Amphibious, tank-like vehicles called ducks lumber across the beaches with a cold detachment in order to record and measure waves, aiding in the scientific analysis of sand disbursement and its effects on the surf. 1964. The beach subsides to the looming pall of the San Onofre nuclear generating station. Excavation reveals the remains of Indigenous people, and the plant is decommissioned after a mere 45 years of operation. By law, the land it is settled on is to be returned to its original natural state, yet the waste will remain. Today, Camp Pendleton and the San Onofre nuclear generating station are the contemporary layers of strata in a vast geology, restricting access to all of the surrounding coast except San Onofre State Beach. Here, beachgoers and surfers enjoy a sliver of paradise amongst the American military-industrial complex. But even this is illegal until the 1970s.